Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we are going to talk about 5G, and of course the topic everybody's always talking about these days, COVID-19, coronavirus, and the potential connection, the lack of connection. As evidenced by the title of this video, I'm saying, sorry, I was wrong about 5G and coronavirus. I fell for the deception, guys. I became a pawn of the big telecoms and a sellout from the FCC, and I decided to just speak against the clear, obvious, and hard evidence connections between 5G and COVID-19. And I'm so sorry for that, for leading you all astray. Obviously, I'm hoping you guys can hear the sarcasm in my voice. I'm being a little facetious. Because I have been attacked a lot lately just for asking questions and for asking for evidence when it comes to the claims regarding COVID-19 and 5G. This is something I've been reporting on and researching now for over a month, including in an interview I did with James Corbett called Fact Checking the COVID-19 Coronavirus Connection. I also talked about this a couple of months ago when it was my video, or I guess almost a month or more, my video with speculation about 5G and coronavirus. And yes, I've been talking about it quite a bit because as somebody who has done a documentary on 5G, it's a topic that I take very seriously and I put time and energy into that. And it's a little unfortunate to see people come in late in the game, I guess you could say, with lacking evidence and watching their videos go viral. These claims have not been strong, and I've really tried to fact check that and call that out. And I've also pointed out how this was going to be hurtful towards the movement. Now we have YouTube saying they're going to suppress false content, allegedly false content, promoting the 5G coronavirus conspiracy theory. We've got headlines like this from Business Insider saying, here's what we know about the bizarre coronavirus 5G conspiracy theory that led to people setting 5G masts on fire, which has, of course, been happening in the UK. It says, bizarre new conspiracy theory links new 5G technology, which will increase mobile connectivity speeds. Believers have reportedly set phone masts on fire. The baseless theory has been circulating in social media since at least January, and the UK government and telecoms have been forced to accept or to confront the theory. Now, as I said then, and back in early February when I was talking about this, and early March when I was talking about this, that the mainstream corporate media was already starting to attack those of us who have legitimate questions as 5G and basically just call us conspiracy theorists. Not that they didn't do that before, but now that the whole coronavirus thing was being brought in, it was really being done as a way to attack people. Now we're at that point where it is being used, and it's causing some fracturing in the 5G awareness movement. I just wrote this article here. It's not published yet. You guys are seeing it first. It might be published by the time you see this, called Controversial Theories Blaming Coronavirus Pandemic on 5G Have Gone Viral. Theories alleging that 5G technology is somehow connected to COVID-19 have gone viral in recent days, but is there any science to back up the claims? And I start looking at this whole thing, and you guys have heard me put forward my theory that I think that this is being pushed either by the telecom lobby themselves, big wireless, big tech, or potentially by the intelligence agencies in order to disrupt the growing awareness around 5G dangers, including January's first global day of protest against 5G and another one coming up in April. Now everybody's so splintered and arguing that I think that this has done more harm than good. And for those who think I haven't watched the videos, for those of you who are going to send me more links, trust me, look, I've gone to websites like 153news.net, a video sharing site for all the things the internet hates and wants to keep secret. And I've watched videos with titles like this, Kung Flu, Vaccines and the War on Humanity. I've gone to BitChute, and I've watched the important information on coronavirus 5G Kung Flu. I've watched this one. It was going viral. Former Vodafone boss blows whistle on 5G coronavirus, IoT, vaccine, digital world currency. And I will say on this, look, the guy doesn't even say his name. He claims he's a former head of a business unit of Vodafone and the UK. And even if that is who he says he is, that doesn't mean he didn't say, and while I was there, I got the secret documents that prove they're using 5G for this purpose. So really saying former Vodafone boss is just a bit of credentialism to make people who can't discern think, oh, well, this guy must know something. He's a former boss of this or that. Like, that doesn't inherently mean he has any insider knowledge. I've also seen this one going viral. This is a video of a doctor that has been speaking on recent days and Twitter. Cameron the doctor, I think Dr. Cameron, and people, of course, even though he didn't say anything about 5G, he's talking about how the ventilators, he thinks they're making things worse. People are retweeting and reblogging and making videos saying intensive care doc confirms 5G symptoms and not COVID-19, must see. And this is being done by Dana Ashley and others who are trying to get people to ask questions about this, making false assumptions. I've watched the David Icke video with David Icke making his connections. Yes, I've watched all of these things. I've also continued on and watched every single video from Thomas Cowan that so many of you have sent me and that are circling around. And I've looked into his history and his background. I don't know that he's necessarily qualified to speak on 5G, and he doesn't offer any sources or verification for the claims he made. I also saw this one. This is an hour and a half Zoom call that he did recently. I watched the entire thing. I listened to it. I did keyword searches for 5G, for wireless, and specifically looking for what he mentioned. I also listened to this interview between Sire G of Green Med Info and Thomas Cowan. And look, they talk about other things that are interesting to me. They talk about this germ theory. I'm researching the whole exosomes, germ theory versus terrain theory. I think that's interesting. There might be something to there. And that's for the crowd who thinks there's no such thing as virus, or at least viruses aren't what we're being told. That's one thing. We have to be able to separate these issues. But when it comes to 5G, Thomas Cowan clearly says in this interview, he thinks, he's guessing, he doesn't have evidence. And I have emailed him and contacted him. I finally heard back from him. He says he doesn't want to do interviews right now. He's not doing interviews or podcasts. I said, that's great. I asked him, can you please provide me evidence or your sourcing for making the 5G COVID-19 connection? And he said, I'll be talking about that in my in an upcoming webinar that I'm hosting. So I look forward to seeing that. But again, I listened to this whole hour and a half talk of his, and in this, he mentioned several books that he said, write this down, look this up if you want to see the sourcing of my work. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that. He talks about Sam Milham and the Dirty Electricity book. I think this is definitely credible stuff that we need to look into, right? Of course, there's books like The Body Electric that have talked about this for quite some time already. That book. He also mentions a couple of other books that aren't specifically related to 5G, but are related to Virus Mania. These are books that, if you want to know the actual alleged apparent evidence on this topic, then perhaps this is where you should start looking at the claims that these people are making. The other thing is, Thomas Cowan, as I said, he specifically mentions that he's guessing or he thinks he has a theory. And for those of you who are attacking me saying I'm trying to censor people, I have no power to censor people. All I'm saying is, speculation can have some role in moving us forward and helping us have a deeper understanding, but baseless speculation, which just comes from completely nowhere, doesn't help anybody. So, as I say in this new article, and in my previous article for Take Back Your Power, a critical examination of the coronavirus 5G connection, when it comes to 5G, I've seen many theories about the technology, the purpose of the rollout, and specific health effects which lack concrete evidence. Most notably, the idea that 5G technology is largely responsible for causing coronavirus symptoms has swept through social media circles. These theories include that there is no such thing as COVID-19, and the symptoms are in fact being caused by radiation released from 5G small cells and towers. There is no evidence to back these claims. There's also the theory that radio frequency radiation is weakening the immune system of individuals and thus allowing COVID-19 to kill them. Some online commentators have speculated that the potential deployment of 5G infrastructure using 60 gigahertz frequencies could be affecting oxygen uptake in humans, leading to shortness of breath and deaths, which are officially attributed to coronavirus. While there are legitimate studies detailing the impacts of EMFs on the immune system and damage to cells, as well as at least one interesting study on 60 gigahertz affecting oxygen uptake in the atmosphere, as of now we have no direct evidence to support these claims. Now, this brings me to 2 points here that I want to make. For one, Thomas Cowan seems to be basing his claims, and the claim that some of you had said, the Spanish flu, it coincided with an upgrade of radar technology, and then this pandemic coincided with an increase in satellites. Basically, this is sort of another niche of the 5G coronavirus thing, claiming viruses aren't real. In fact, the pandemics were actually a response to an increase in EMFs and radio frequency radiation due to new technologies, and most recently 5G. Now, Thomas Cowan, he is referencing work from this book, The Invisible Rainbow, which is by Arthur Furstenberg, The Invisible Rainbow, A History of Electricity and Life. And here's a review of it that I will put in the links below. I'm in the process of reading the book myself, And I actually emailed Arthur Firstenberg to ask him himself and to try to get to the bottom of this, because he is the one who has originally been making these claims based off his research. His book is 500 pages long. He says it's 150 pages of source material. I've listened to an hour and a half interview with him. I think I got a pretty good idea of what he's saying, but I want to look at the actual source material, because that's what somebody who's trying to prove a claim, that's not just trying to read a headline and share something out there without any evidence, does. They actually slow down, they put the phone down, they put the computer down, do some research, do some homework, and then come back and present those facts, rather than just trying to be the first one to comment or to get the information out there. So again, everybody's sending me Thomas Cowan's videos. He's making claims without providing source. Please stop sending them to me. I've seen them all. I don't think I haven't watched them all. Like I said, I've watched every kooky, crazy video out there, and every now and then I learn a little bit. There's a bit of information that I didn't have before, but overall, they're all just cutting, pasting, copying each other's videos and putting them out there, and it's not really helping anybody to any measurable degree, other than making people's minds more foggy and confusing more people. So his material, his claim that the virus isn't real and it's being caused by 5G, it's coming from the work from Arthur Firstenberg. And Arthur Firstenberg mentions Dr. Milham, who is this guy, Sam Milham, Dirty Electricity. So I'm going to be reading The Invisible Rainbow, and hopefully Arthur Firstenberg gets back to me and we can do an interview so I can get to the heart of the matter. And we can actually learn more about these claims if there's any facts. This is what I've been asking for, guys. All of you, when I ask you, I'm not trying to fight or argue with you when I ask you for sources and credible information. I'm trying to ask for sources and credible information. And you can get angry and upset if you choose to. But the point is, if you want people to listen to you, if you're trying to grow a movement, you need facts. And if you don't have the time for those facts, then make it 1,000% clear when you share something. You don't know if this is true. You're just putting it out there, and you hope somebody smarter than you or with more time than you can actually help provide information. Now, I will say this. In relation to this Business Insider article, we've now seen that Woody Harrelson, the actor, let's see if I can find it, Woody Harrelson shared an Instagram post suggesting that 5G could be making the COVID-19 pandemic worse. Now, what I found interesting about this is he actually shared a link, not a link, but an excerpt from an article by Dr. Martin Paul. See, in this article, it's interesting to notice Business Insider doesn't call him doctor, a retired professor from Washington State University who has pushed a theory that Wi-Fi is harmful to human health. And they basically try to make him sound like he's crazy. Well, Dr. Martin Paul is somebody who I greatly respect. I interviewed him in my documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, for those of you who have seen that. And he did indeed put out a recent paper. Let me see. This is the original one that came out in February, which was not specifically focused on 5G and coronavirus or anything, but he does mention it in here. If you do a Control F, you can find that he gets in there and he talks about it. And right here, it's under this, the role of 5G and coronavirus epidemic in Wuhan, China, which is also right here. And he provided an update on March 22nd, a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to reach out to Dr. Martin Paul and see if we can get him on the show as well, since I do respect his work. He did great work on the activation of the voltage gate calcium channel within cells, and how 5G millimeter wave radiation and other EMF exposure, radio frequency radiation, can break down the cell structure, lead to oxidative stress and inflammation and other kinds of problems. And so right here he says, it is my opinion, therefore, that 5G radiation is greatly stimulating the coronavirus pandemic and also the major cause of death, pneumonia, and therefore an important public health measure would be to shut down the 5G antennas, particularly the small cell 5G antennas in close proximity to our homes, schools, business, and houses of worship and hospitals. So my point was showing this. This is something that's actually catching my eye. This is somebody who's I consider credible, who is an expert on biology and the effects of radio frequency radiation on our biology. And Arthur Firstenberg definitely seems to be somebody who's credible. I'm looking further into his work. Thomas Cowan may be credible on some topics, but he's also jumping to a lot of conclusions. And at the end of the day, I wanted to interview him, but his source material is The Invisible Rainbow. So why not just get to the original source, which would be Arthur Firstenberg. And then I want to read you guys the end of this article, which will be released shortly, probably by the time you guys are reading this. I also mentioned how on Sunday, the Organization for the Americans for Responsible Technology sent out an email alerting their supporters to please stop linking COVID-19 to 5G. This organization, for those who seem unaware, is an association of organizations and individuals across America who raise awareness about the dangers of implementing new communications technologies in North America. The group is also behind the 5G crisis movement, which has been great in getting the word out about the dangers of 5G. They're not some shill organization. And listen to what they're saying. Over the past few days, the public relations machines of the wireless industry have ramped up their news feeds, making sure that every news outlet in the world gets this message loud and clear. Opponents of 5G are crazy, even blaming 5G for COVID-19. So the organization states that there is no credible evidence-based science showing that 5G is responsible for COVID-19. However, the group does recognize that there are, quote, thousands of studies showing that radio frequency microwave radiation can have severe biological impacts, but there's no proof of a link to COVID-19. So they're not shilling for the telecoms or for the FCC or for anybody. They're just saying, let's stick to the facts. And this is one thing I've tried to say to you guys for a while. We have so much overwhelming evidence to show that there are health problems and privacy problems and loss of local power and all these things associated with 5G. But people focus on these very, these theories that can't really be proven at the moment. And again, speculation can be valuable. But in many cases, you're only making it harder for the people who are actually trying to wake people up and grow this movement. And maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you just care about yourself and your own theories and trying to act like you know what's going on, because so many people on the internet seem to know all the facts. It's so funny. But if you actually care about trying to grow this movement and wake more people up, then maybe you should stick with the science we already have. Ask the questions in private conversations, and not act as if you're so certain. And also, don't just trust these various talking heads and people on YouTube and Facebook who claim things without actually backing them up. Just because they have diplomas on their wall or letters next to their name doesn't really mean that they know what they're talking about. And it doesn't really make them an expert in every single area. Somebody can be a doctor, but be completely ignorant on a certain topic. Now I want to end with this. To those who are concerned about 5G and COVID-19, I humbly offer a piece of advice for your efforts to reach neighbors, friends, family, and elected officials. Do your research. Do the homework. Don't just read the headlines of articles and share them. Don't let other people, YouTubers, Facebook commenters, government officials, scientists, do the thinking for you. In conclusion, we must make an effort to distinguish between speculating about things that might be true and facts that we can prove. I plan to interview Dr. Martin Pall again to get a clearer picture of his claims about COVID-19 and 5G. I'm also making an effort to interview author Arthur Firstenberg, whose book The Invisible Rainbow seems to be the source for claims that all pandemics are actually a biological response to upgrades in digital technology. And I will post those on this channel as well as in the Mind Unleashed. And the final note here, guys, is something that is not a conspiracy theory, which is a fact, and which I've been talking about in recent weeks, which is the fast tracking of 5G in schools and homes and hospitals and around the country. And this article a couple weeks ago from CNBC outlines it, why the coronavirus pandemic may fast forward 5G adoption in the U.S. And it's a very important read, and the signs are all there that this crisis is being used to propel 5G forward. And there may be indeed a connection in the sense that, as Dr. Martin Pall and others are trying to say, that the immunity is being weakened, things of that sort. But one important thing that a lot of you don't seem to get, and I don't know if it's just because you're not really that well researched on the effects of EMFs and radio frequency radiation, but unless you are exposed to some massive level of radiation, you're not going to get sick the very next day. You're not going to fall down on the ground and have a seizure because you've been exposed to a cell phone tower or a Wi-Fi station or 5G. It is a cumulative effect that builds up over time and weakens your cells and weakens your bodies. So if you think that just being exposed to something overnight is going to crash, your whole body's immune system, that's not what we know to be a fact. Now, there are theories that, they can turn it up or dial it up. Well, show me the technology that exists. It probably does exist somewhere, but we can't prove that yet. And you don't grow a movement of reaching new people by talking about things you can't prove and that you can only speculate on. So if you give a damn about trying to wake people up to 5G, which is more important than ever because it's the backbone to the technocratic state that I've been talking about for a while, then please stick to the facts that we have. And in this case, I've never said that there was no potential link to COVID-19 and 5G. What I have said is that they are not the same thing. People are sick from something, and perhaps exposure to high amounts of radiation can and does indeed weaken the immune system, can cause flu-like symptoms, and can harm the lungs. And if we get more research, we might be able to prove that it can harm oxygen uptake. First, the only studies we've seen on 60 gigahertz and all that related to oxygen relate to oxygen in the atmosphere, not into the human body. And the other thing is, there's no 5G that is currently operating on 60 gigahertz aspect of the spectrum. You guys need to understand the topic better before you go out there running around just spreading disinformation. I only speak this way and act as if I'm some sort of quote-unquote authority because I've spent the last 2 years researching this up and down, confronting the heads of the FCC, confronting the heads of Verizon, confronting the mayor of Houston, interviewing the experts, and producing a documentary. No, that doesn't mean I can't be wrong on anything, but I do think it makes me a little more credible than some people who are just now starting to tune into 5G because they heard about a conspiracy theory from their favorite celebrity on Instagram. That's all I'm saying. So, for the moment, I am willing to say that Dr. Martin Pall and others are trying to provide evidence. They do not have factual evidence. They do not have concrete evidence, but they have theories. And those theories can and potentially might be proven in the future. For the moment, we don't have that evidence. And I appreciate everybody who comes to my work for critical thinking and for factual research and doesn't jump the gun and just run with their favorite theory because it makes them feel good inside and makes them feel like they know everything. Because the truth is, we don't really know shit. Thank you guys for listening. This is Derrick Broze of The Conscious Resistance. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.